welcome, Michael Lindfield. You are on the show today with me. We are doing this wonderful podcast because we're going to go deep down the rabbit hole of your work and about life itself. And I want to thank you first and foremost for allowing us to chat and to go on to this journey with you. I'm going to be honest to the listeners. This is a person I stalked. I stalk certain individuals. I give myself a pat on the back for doing it sometimes. I go down rabbit holes and end up finding incredible people. And Michael is definitely one of those. His energy and what he can bring to us all is incredible. And we really wanted to share this and kind of get you up on a pedestal here. I know you probably won't like that, but we're putting you on one anyway. So how are you today, Michael?
I'm fine. It's just gone 7 o'clock in the morning here in California. I've been up a while. I've had 2 cups of tea, so I'm ready to go, and a couple of biscuits. So a rich tea and a digestive, and a square of dark chocolate. I mean, that's my normal breakfast, so I'm good to go.
I love that. A rich tea, man after my own heart, because it's got my name on it. I like it, rich tea. So yeah, it's good. So for those who are listening, we have got Michael on to talk about a couple of subjects. One of them is kind of a deeper connection to resonance, about his project with regards to the morphogenic field, which we'll explain more of, but also to tell us a story on the meditation mount, which is currently a beautiful spot that you have claimed on Mother Earth. And can you first and foremost just tell us a little bit about this patch of paradise that you've managed to find for yourself?
Well, it was established 50 years ago above the Ojai Valley in Southern California. And this is the home for a number of spiritual organizations, the Krishnamurti Foundation, the Theosophical, there are Buddhist groups. It's like a magnetic place that attracts people, not just because of the beauty of the land, but because I believe that in this valley, it's like a seed bed, and the seeds of future possibilities are being planted here. So all around the world, you need those places where the future is being cultivated now while the old falls apart. So at Meditation Mount, we really have 2 charges. And I say charges because we've been charged to do that. That's our assignment. But also they've been electrically charged by spirit. So we get it. Most people, when they think of meditation, think of the practice of coming into alignment, of stilling the physical body, the emotions, clearing the mind, and then creating this online relationship with the soul. That's individual meditation. What we do here at Meditation Mount is group meditation, and we're focusing on that maxim that says energy follows thought. So we believe that a group of people, when they come together and hold a clear intention of creating something better together, can actually begin to create on an inner level the spiritual architecture of things to come. So if we want a more just and joyful world, how do we create the architectural drawings for that? And then the architectural drawings are packaged, and it becomes a seed thought. So a seed thought really is an enfolded universe of all possibilities, just like a seed. When you go into the garden with a packet of seeds, you hold in your hand a seed that it contains the promise and the potential, but it has to be sown and grown for the potential and the promise to be shown. And so what we're engaged in at Meditation Mount is envisioning a more just and joyful world, whatever's next for our society, and creating those magnetic seed ideas and thoughts and sending them out into the ethers to inspire others. That's one part of the creative meditation. I could go into more depth about what are the different aspects of creative meditation. But the other thing we do is, in creating a new world, the foundation for our new world has to be built on a different set of principles and values. So we've been asked to focus on 3 principles at Meditation Mount for the building of the foundation for what's to come. And these 3 principles are essential divinity, goodwill, and unanimity. So let me unpack those very briefly. Essential divinity says that within each of us, there is the divine spark. Each of us carries within us an aspect of the one. Therefore, we are like fractals of the one life. Therefore, we are sacred beings because we are aspects of the one. So that essential divinity acknowledges who you are, who I am. It gives each other respect, and it means that we acknowledge that we are the many expressions of the one. And the movement that many of us feel now is that the many are seeking to walk the path back to the one, to unity, to this sense of coherence. Mm-hmm. Then the second principle is goodwill, which basically says love in action, because the soul is a loving presence, a magnetic presence of love, and the natural urge of the soul is to love and give. So when we say goodwill, we're saying that love is the, if you like, the currency of all relationships. It's the lifeblood that flows through everything. And then the third principle is unanimity, which simply says there is a pre-existing state of interdependence, of coherence, that all of life hangs together in one seamless web. So with these three principles, you will have respect, you'll have beauty, you'll have joy as a natural order. So the thing about order is you don't impose it from the outside, because then you get dictatorial. Order is the flowering of the beauty of what lives inside us as our essential divinity, as goodwill, and within this context of we're part of one seamless web. So that, in a very small nutshell, is part of our brief, part of our assignment here at Meditation Mount.
It sounds like a beautiful assignment you got going on. I'm like, oh, I want to join.
It's a no loser. I mean, that's it. If you build your life, and if we build a collective life on these three principles, what we're doing on earth is we're mirroring, reflecting the inner reality. If that's what one believes, that if one believes that the motivating and pre-existing energy and force behind all of creation is love, then we're recreating a foundation built on love and respect, because we're all part of the same being. As they say, there's only one being in this conversation, and we're it.
That's beautiful. It reminds me, a friend of mine, Greg Paul of the Law of Mankind. I don't know if you're aware of Paul. Greg. He said something that stuck with me. It's one of those moments in life where it's frozen. I'm never going to forget it. And we were talking about the subject of balance, where lots of people in the spiritual community are trying to find and, have their balance in life, whether you're balanced on a yoga mat or balance from, not drinking too much. This illusion of balance that we try to create is a clinging and it's a controlling of trying to make life what we want it to be or what we feel it should be. And he said, we're not here to find balance. We're here to be okay with absolute love and absolute grief in both equal measures. And once you're willing to fall into love, or you're willing to fall into grief in the full way, you then find your natural order of balance, because you've lived that full experience. And it's not a trying. It's not like we're trying to do this. It's a willingness to surrender, either love or grief. And from that becomes the natural order. So it's very similar to what you're saying. And it's a beautiful way of looking, because we try to hold on to what we think we know, because we think it's safe, not wanting to go into that space, because that space is, the silence is where everything comes from.
Exactly. I love that. And the fact that we're having this conversation in the sun sign of Libra, which is balance and equilibrium, and the spiritual motto for Libra is, I choose the way that leads between the two great lines of force, the polarities. So it's all about not getting caught up in the polarities, but using the tension between the poles to move us forward, and find that point of synthesis, which is the higher point of convergence of the polarities. And so your comments are very germane to what we're immersed in now, which is the energy of Libra. So I totally agree with you. And but the thing about, when I look at beliefs, the problem with beliefs is we believe them to be true. It's like rather than, my beliefs are my current interpretation of reality. They are not reality. And I think that's where we get stuck at the moment. we have, if I get dug in to what I believe to be true, I carve out this little island of belief and I stand in a separate space and somebody else has a different opinion. And then we naturally come into opposition with each other. But if we can let go and say, that instead of we're just different points of view, we're different viewing points. There's a difference between a point of view, which is normally ends up in a fixed opinion, and a viewing point, which is all these different ways of creating a holographic understanding of what is. So I love the quote, and I can imagine why it sort of you resonated with it.
Yeah, it's very similar to the work as well, the Law of Mankind work that I've been studying is also the difference between the words true and truth. And true is provable by way of evidence. Your truth is based on your opinion of what you think happened at that time. So in the truth community, you've got people looking for their truths. And it's a very unstable place to be because that's based on their beliefs. What do they believe? And they now have heard this new belief and then this new belief. And that's why it's so confusing, because we shift beliefs quite often when you wake up and go on a spiritual journey, as it were. We shift our beliefs so quickly because of the amount of information that's coming through to us. We can end up feeling, like we're oscillating in overwhelm, and it's too much for us. But actually, if we stripped it back and said, I may have seen, 50 messages today on Telegram, but what is actually true? I'll go on what is true. Very few of those things are provable by way of evidence. A lot of them are just assumptions or conversations around what people believe to be, the truth. Exactly. So it's just cutting through and slicing back and being willing to actually sit and say, is that really true? The work of Byron Katie, did that happen? Is it really true? And most of the time it's not. But we get lost in the story and the belief, and that's the confusion. Therein lies the confusion.
I absolutely agree. And your word that you used earlier, Nat, was surrender. And surrender means letting go, but not letting go as giving up, but it's allowing myself to free my beliefs and free myself from the prison of those beliefs so that I can re-enter that larger space from which I came. It's like, this is how the many return to the one. By breaking free of the prison of beliefs. The mind is wonderful because it helps us make sense of things, but it doesn't have the resonant relationship with life. That's what the heart does. The heart has a resonant relationship with life. So when one places the mind inside the heart, the mind has a better chance of performing its duty without getting carried away and trying to run the whole show. So I found that I've had to have a few quiet words with my mind, say, look, we love you, you're great, you're brilliant, but go live in the heart, because then you can do the most good. Left to your own devices, you can create havoc because you're generating all these beliefs. So I totally get it. Yeah.
There's something that I had to have a little quiet word with myself about, because when I think of letting go, it was such a devastating thing to do. I'm like, I don't want to let go. I want to hold on. I don't want to let go, because we don't want to let go, because when we let go, we don't know where we're going. And that's a very scary way to be. But I had to have a conversation with myself, and I was on the floor crying in one of my usual tantrums that, when you're on this path and you're like, really? And the words, don't let go, just let be. And I was like, oh, I'm not I didn't then have to face that, oh my God, I'm letting go of anything. It was just to let it be as it is today. Like, don't deny the reality that you're living today by creating a story. Just let it be what it is. And when you're facing what it actually is, it's a lot quicker. We can move through that because there's no resistance to it. There's no holding on. There's no, there's no like clinging with dear life. It's just a slight word shift of let it be rather than let it go. And it has a lot less heaviness, or for me anyway, it's a much easier way to be able to surrender.
Yeah, I've encountered the same conversation I've had with myself, but with other people of, oh, I don't want to surrender. I don't want to let go of who I am. This whole thing of becoming a group, like the movement from I to we, and people are fearful. And I actually say it's okay, because when you allow yourself to let go or be inside a larger space, when you move from I to we, you don't in fact lose your individuality or your sovereignty. In fact, it expands. So we is an expanded sense of self. And it's like, oh, thank you. Oh, I thought I was going to lose myself. No, who you are at the moment is a particular aspect, a particle, but you are much more than this particle. But the only way to become much more than this particle is to plant yourself in in the garden of Gaia and grow. And that's why a seed is like a particle, which is the whole universe packed into a particle of infinity. That's what a seed is. And then you plant it in the garden, and over time it unfolds. And therefore, letting it be. I have a background in gardening, and people would often say, well, what vegetables did you grow? And I say, actually, I didn't grow the vegetables, they grew
Watched.
themselves. I was there to help create the right conditions in which they could be.
Mm, yeah, I loved your article that we spoke about before when you say about the seed is the way you were looking at a black hole is, through the black hole where things get lost, but through the white hole, which is the seed, is where things come out of. It's like the things that grow out of the seed is the white hole. So all seeds are now called white holes, by the way, in
Exactly.
my
And
world.
each of us is a white hole because if you if you go back to that analogy, if you plant a seed in the ground out of seemingly nowhere, all all these new forms and beauty arise. Well, where do they come from? What are they? Well, they're condensed light. It's the frequency of light entering time and space to express a particular formula that's contained inside the seed. And that formula is carrothood or rosehood or whatever it is. Or, um, and
Yeah.
so that's the beauty. So I figured when I was caught up with this whole exploration of black holes, and I thought, well, we're living in a dualistic universe. If there's a black hole, there must be a white hole. And
Mm.
as you say in that article, I wrote about how I discovered a white hole when I was holding these seeds in my hand,
Yeah.
about to sow carrots, and suddenly I looked down and everything froze. The seeds began to sparkle, and I went, "Oh my God, I'm holding white holes." And I
Mhm.
can prove it. It goes back to
Yeah.
your proof. I can scientifically prove it. I'm going to put it in the ground, and out of this seed is going to come this magnificent condensation of light in
Mhm.
this shape, in this form. So, and that's who we are. So if we dare to be, we can show up as a condensation of light in our own beauty and the unique expression. Nobody else can bring to the Garden of Gaia the gift of who we are. Each of us have to do it, and we have to do it together. So I keep going back to gardening terms because they're safest for me.
Yeah.
Because that's how
Why
things
not?
happen.
Yeah, you wrote that, I think it was in 1984, the year I was born, if I remember rightly, when we were discussing it last
1980,
time.
actually, it was 1983, 84. Yeah, on the cusp.
1983,
Yeah,
84, yeah.
I know.
So
Well,
you've been on this path for a very long time. And this is why we've got you on. Your wealth of experience is phenomenal. So Lou, as I said, has written a lot of questions for me, but I'm
all
I'm
right.
kind of going to go on to the next.
This is an interview. You have to
Yeah,
have
this is an
questions.
interview. We end up
Right.
chatting.
Okay.
This is what I do with all my guests. I end up
I
chatting
know.
and going down a rabbit hole, and the girls are like, we have an agenda over here. So I'm just going to go back to one of the questions here.
Okay. And
So,
your starter for 10, Michael, is.
yeah. So it's in your TEDx talk on the morphogenic field, which we'll also get into shortly. Can you speak a little bit more around the laws of resonance and kind of what you come to understand around that, please?
Oh, yes. There is a saying from the universal to the particular. So let me start with the big picture. So rather than in the beginning was the Big Bang, in the beginning was the big breath. And the breath carried with it the word. And the word is this formula, this promise, which contains the purpose and destiny of the Creator. And as it moved through time and space and substance, it attracted to itself the elements and gave them shape, etc., etc. So what was created has a relationship with the Creator. There is a resonant relationship. And as I said earlier, if I truly believe in my heart that the pre-existing motivating force of all creation is love, then we are beings of love, and we're here to show love in all its guises, in the garden of Gaia, the garden of Earth. And so, if I think about how do I get back in touch with the truest expression of love? How do I get in touch with the great presence of love? Well, I have to, on my microcosmic level, create those conditions that reflect love. So for instance, I've given this example before of the heart being this instrument that can register the vibrations of the cosmos. It's like a radio telescope. It picks up the cosmic signals. So the heart really picks up the transmission of love. And the heart also is a very special instrument of circulation, of blessing. And I had this experience a couple of weeks ago. We had a peace concert here to coincide with the International Day of Peace here at Meditation Mount. And we based it on the first line of the prayer of St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace.
Yes.
So what does it mean to make yourself an instrument of peace? And so here's the image that I work with, and it's a way of answering your question, is that I looked and felt my heart to be this instrument of peace. I saw it as a 7-stringed harp. And it's my job to build this instrument and tune it so that it can play and resound on earth the note of love that emanates through the cosmos. And I had this image of all of us standing around the world like Aeolian wind harps. If you know an Aeolian wind harp, there's these structures that are placed out in nature where the wind blows strong and steady. And when it passes through the strings, they vibrate, and the surrounding ethers are filled with this tonal spectrum. And I saw each of us, once we have opened our hearts and tuned our strings, and we do that through acts of loving kindness, we become these Aeolian wind harps that then resound and play the note of love on earth that is coming through the cosmos. So we come into resonant relationship with love. And that's why I think the heart is so important. The mind is important, but the mind has to be in union, in cooperation with the heart, because it is the heart that is the organ of sensitivity and the organ of holding. It can hold pain, it can hold grief, it can hold joy. It's the chalice that can hold everything. And then it is the chalice that can offer gifts to the world. We can transmit. So for me, the heart is the organ of resonance. So a resonant field basically says we're part of this being called Gaia, and Gaia is this entity in whom we live and move and have our being. Therefore, as integral aspects, we're part of a resonant field that is the planetary aura. And whether we like it or not, we're connected with everything. It's just that sometimes we disconnect and think we're an island. So the whole thing of resonance is to coming back into right relationship with that which is. It goes back to Let It Be, which of course is a Beatles song.
They get everywhere.
It's true, and all you need is love. I mean, we could do a whole thing on Beatles. And in fact, I grew up with that generation. I remember seeing them in concert in Brighton back in the 60s, and they actually weren't top of the bill. They were second. Jerry and the Pacemakers were top of the bill. How about that?
Rightly deserved.
I know. Anyway, so there's more we can say about resonance, but it goes back to how do we bring ourselves in resonance with the deep presence of love that gave birth to everything? Well, we have to recreate those conditions ourselves. And the only way that we can tune the strings of our heart to the right frequency that can be in resonance is through loving kindness, because love is what gave birth to everything. That's how I hold it.
Yeah. And then with the morphogenic field, in terms of kind of that on a collective scale, could you go a little bit into that?
Because if we're part of this being in whom we live and move and have our being, we're part of this aura, and the aura is an intact field. It's a morphogenetic field. The cosmos is an entity. It isn't just a space. It's an entity, and this entity has integrity. So the morphogenetic field is the resonant integrity of a greater being. That's how I would see it. I haven't expressed it that way before, but it comes out now. But yeah, I think the resonant integrity of the greater being in whom we live and move and have our being. And therefore, we can communicate. The communication happens inside this field, this morphogenetic field. Unfortunately, we as humans have narrowed the field down, and we only think of life as being human. And I believe if we're going to give birth to the destiny of Gaia, we actually have to be in cooperation with all the other elements of nature, all the realms of nature, visible and invisible, because this one life of Gaia can only really manifest properly through the full spectrum. And we're part of the color band, but we're not the whole spectrum. We have to be in relationship with the earth, with the rocks, with the plants, with the birds, with the angels, with the muses, with those other beings who are part of the entity of this earth. And so it gets a little deep here, and I don't want to sort of present esoteric concepts, because for me it's not a concept. It's how do I live into the fact of unanimity? How do I live into the fact of goodwill, love? How do I live into the fact of the principle of essential divinity? Which means that, there's the great question that the pupil asked the master is, Master, how should we treat others? And the master said to the pupil, there are no others.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And that's the thing, learning on your journey, that, on anybody's journey, it's the learning that people would often say, oh, treat others as you would treat yourself. And it's a very, it's a straightforward way of looking at it, but to remind yourself that you have the power in every single moment that you operate, whether you're making a decision to WhatsApp someone back when they need you to, or whether you're making a decision to follow up with that email, or whether it's a greater decision of whether you're going to do some gardening and put some love into the land. Every one of those decisions comes from love or fear. It's a place of love or fear. That's where we make our decisions from. I think a lot of people they long for love. Some people don't recognize love because they haven't had it, unfortunately, in often cases. So it's very hard for some people to come back to love because they think, well, I've never had it. What am I coming back to? But it's this beauty, it's this space, it's this opportunity to feel what's true in that moment, and to allow it to be, because it's very potent when you come into that space. Right. But what would you say to people who are not necessarily as comfortable with love, or who may be overwhelmed by love in terms of making those decisions into love? What kind of wise words would you whisper?
People are reluctant because people have been burned, and once bitten, twice shy kind of thing. But when you were speaking, you reminded me of a story back in the 1970s. I studied with a Danish philosopher called Martinus, and he had an Institute of Spiritual Science. And I was at this summer camp they had in North Zealand. And somebody asked him, Martinus, could you teach us about meditation? And he said, well, here's what I can do. I'd like you for the next 2 weeks to spend 5 minutes every morning thinking of the people you don't particularly like and don't particularly like you, and I want you to send love to them. Okay. When you've done that, for the following 2 weeks, I want you to do that for 10 minutes every morning. And then let's get back in a month, and then we can begin to talk about meditation. He was basically saying, the field of meditation is one of resonance. One has to love oneself, love others as thyself, but if we've been burned, do I dare open myself up? Vulnerability. And sometimes it's wise not to be open, but if we know it's safe, then there's nothing more beautiful than to open up one's heart to another person, or to a sunrise or a sunset or nature, and feel the love that is living in that field in the moment. And so I'd say, do it gently, do it in small steps, because people leap into love and they go bang, and then they have a bad experience. I'm never going to do that again. Just grow into it and allow love to grow into you. And I think what I've also found is to be grateful. and not to see life as transactional. Well, if I open up and give you this, then I expect this from you. For me, if I begin each day by being grateful, gratitude is how I say yes and thank you to life in the moment. And when I do that, I allow life to enter me and I can enter life. So when I begin to send love to others who maybe I don't have the best relationships with, not just, well, I bet I should love them. No, but genuinely feel there is no other. It's like in the Bible, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Well, the answer isn't yes or no. The answer is I am my brother. I am my sister. We're the one expressed in different guises. And once we get that, it's like, oh my gosh, why am I at war with you? Why am I afraid of you? And so how do we create a common space of love where we can meet? And that's it. So creating a field of resonance where we can meet in love is how we create these little microclimates of loving kindness that can reforest the arid desert of the human psyche, which at the moment is very barren. And go back to the seeds. If I plant a seed in the soil, it's not going to grow if I lay the seed on barren and hard ground, the hard ground of hatred or the hard ground of separation. It needs to be planted in soil that's been enriched by kindness and enriched by all the other good nutrients that we know about. So I guess it goes back to daring to love, but doing it wisely. Like a flower. A flower opens gradually as the sun touches it. So when you feel that touch of love, allow yourself to slowly open petal by petal, rather than going whack.
Yeah, it's not speed date on Tinder.
It's like,
yeah, just slowly, going slowly.
You can get fried if you open up too quickly, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm experiencing something in my personal life at the moment. It's a deepening to someone. That is a very beautiful way to connect. And it doesn't, the old version of me would have been like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to find my answers. I don't need to know what's going on. I don't need to go any faster than what I'm going at. It's just I'm opening up every day a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it feels really nice. It feels very comfortable. Exactly. But it takes me a long time to think about it like this.
Well, Nat, the thing is that how I approach it now, when I meet a person, there are many people I go, oh, how beautiful, what a lovely person. My old self would go, right, I need to be in relationship with, and the relationship I've got this
designed
premeditated form of what it should look like.
Yeah.
Now, when I meet somebody, I tune into what the resonance is, and I say, how do we honor that which is between us and with us?
Yeah.
And then you honor the chemistry and you honor the field that is created by the two of you, and then it takes its own shape. So you don't end up, oh gosh, that's not the way I wanted this to be. But if you allow it to grow, as you say, organically unfold, without imposing and without fear, and that's the tricky thing because of all our past experiences. I'm always safeguarding myself from more pain because I've had painful experiences before. But when I dare to honor what is between us without expectations of what it should be, but this expectancy of the joy of what it is as it unfolds, it's a whole different way of being in relationship with people.
Yeah, it's magical. I had this tattoo, no expectations, just high hopes, I had years ago. And somebody said it to me, don't expect anything, that you when you expect, you manipulate. I was like, wow.
Yeah, but remember, there's a difference between expecting and expectancy. Expectancy is when you are pregnant with love, pregnant with spirit, and it fills you and you have to give birth to it. Expecting is this usually a transactional negotiation you have with life. Look, this is what I expect. What have I got to do to get it? It's like ordering something on Amazon. Look, I ordered it. Why hasn't it arrived?
Waiting for my prime delivery of love. I'm like, hello.
Yeah, well, are you a prime customer?
Like, yeah, this is the point. I said this to my friend. We
deliver love faster to prime customers. It doesn't work that way. Life is not transactional. So
yeah, I love that. Are you a prime customer? That's the key. It's like people are out there making lists of what they want. It's like, are you what you want? Have you got there yet? You're waiting for something to have that beautiful resonance with. It's like, what are you attracting? What are you putting out?
So instead of expectations, how about allowing ourselves through in the heart to be impregnated by the seed of love?
No.
And then we are expecting.
Yeah.
We don't have expectation, we're expecting. The expectancy is the imminent birth. And that's what we are giving expression to,
I love
is
this.
that which is seeking to be born.
This is deep philosophical science and dating advice all wrapped into one here, you know.
It is. Maybe that's what I should do. Is no, I don't want to.
I love it. We can have a section on I Am Sound, and we can have Michael's dating advice. Go over there if you're looking for something a little bit more grounded. We can definitely open up a chapter about that. I think we've kind of covered lots of what Lou really wanted here. She obviously phrased it in different ways, but one of them here was, what was your greatest lesson from your observations and relationship with nature, being the avid gardener that you are?
That nature isn't something outside of me. My own nature is an aspect of nature. That inside myself, inside my bones, I've got the minerals. Inside my blood, like the chlorophyll, the sap in the plants, I've got angels inside of me. I've got everything out there. I am a microcosm. I am a fractal of the one life. And when I realize that, it's like, I'm not Michael standing here wondering how to garden or how to relate to nature. Goes back to your thing, Nada, let it be. Be natural, which is a note actually on the scale, be natural.
It's got my name in it as well, yeah, be natural.
Absolutely. Rather than be sharp. So, it goes back to that of suddenly realizing I can relax into the reality of that I am nature. Not that I am part of nature. My nature is part of the greater nature. And the greater nature expresses through me, through us. And therefore, we are part of this natural ecosystem. Most people, when they think of themselves and what they're going to do each day, just think about the human side of things. Whereas if we are here to help unfold the deep destiny of Gaia, which is this enfolded promise which is being planted in time and space, that is more than just a human project. Gaia is a multi-dimensional ecosystem. And inside of us, we have many dimensions. We are multi-dimensional beings. Therefore, when I realize that I am a multi-dimensional being living inside a multi-dimensional earth, inside a multi-dimensional universe, and there's a great mystery where the one life wants to touch itself and see itself by externalizing itself in the many, and then the many have to remember who they are and put back the dismembered oneness.
Great game. Yeah.
And how do we walk the path of wholeness? So walking the path of wholeness is to realize that everything is contained within everything. I forget which Greek philosopher said that, but that's always fascinated me. If ever I want something to reflect on, I always reflect on everything is contained within everything.
Beautiful. And that leads perfectly on to Lou's last question about synchronicities. I'm going to read this one out because it's a bit of a large one. She says, your life has been so full of synchronicities. She's currently thinking about your move from to Seattle from Findhorn in Scotland, over here in the UK, and how your work came out of that so beautifully. So in one interview, you referenced the whole of life is built on rhythm and timing, and you speak of cycles within cycles. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes.
She digs deep, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, this is, well, let's say synchronicity, when I am in right resonant relationship with myself, others, and the world around me, then everything happens as part of this grand choreography. When I'm out of alignment, I bump into things. I have bad days. I have good days. I drop things. So when we're in that kind of life, when something is synchronous and shows up, wow, that worked, we're surprised. But really, that's how it is when we're living in right relationship or right resonance with life. And the synchronicity can happen when I get out of the way. When Michael gets out of the way of, this is what Michael wants, rather than this is what's seeking to express through Michael. And that's really, that's the surrender part. It's not surrender and not being in charge. It simply is, I allow the promise that lives inside this white hole, this seed that is my soul, to take shape in unexpected ways. You talk about having no expectations. If I have expectations of what it would look like, I'm leading a premeditated life, not a meditated life. So for me, it's this whole thing of saying, I'm willing, I'm ready, game on. Whatever we say as part of yes. And when we say yes, life says, oh, okay, welcome to the dance. And we find ourselves meeting this person, being brought into this situation. We go, wow, that's amazing. I was just thinking, well, of course, energy follows thought. We have placed ourselves in the dance, and we're part of the externalization of the, if you like, the cosmic dance on Earth. We're now acting it out. And so it goes back to intent. If my intent is to be of greater service, I have now placed myself inside a larger system of being. I have placed myself inside a larger resource. Therefore, my life will be resourced differently. I don't have to go out and get it like a hunter. Oh, I got to go and get this, got to go and get this for my sake. When Michael says, hey, I'm ready to play in the big sandbox. I'm ready to play and be part of this deeper unfolding, then it's great. Okay, here are the resources. We can put you here. Yeah, you'll be great here. This is your natural place. Let go, and you will be moved to where you need to be. And then you say, oh my gosh, this is exactly, I couldn't have imagined it any better. Well, because the mind wasn't getting in the way. It wasn't setting up what I want, what I should have, what I need to have. There comes a point of surrender in my life where I say, look, I have to die to my own expectations or my own beliefs, but I don't die as far as who I am. I die to the forms that are currently constricting the expression of who I really am. So it allows something to flow. And if you think of a seed, the seed germinates. The seed is the case. It's the germ inside the seed that carries the life. At some point, the seed case has to break. Like the egg has to break for the chick to come out. So the seed is only the carrier of the germ of life. And so all the forms that I have and I project into the future, if I can break those and participate, then synchronicity is how life dances rhythmically together and in this great ritual of beauty. Because I believe that when we're dancing on the outside to the rhythm of the music of the spheres on the inside, that's beauty. Beauty is the revelation on the outside of the patterns and geometry and symmetry of the heavens. So it's, I get prosaic about this because
no,
I feel it.
A whole day of this today.
I feel it deeply, Nat. This is because people think, oh, beauty. Well, what is beauty? Beauty is simply the revelation in form of a deep inner quality or reality. And I often, because I live in Italy part of the year, I often go to Florence and look at Michelangelo's works, and I'm just amazed. And you know the story, you've heard it before, of Michelangelo in front of this block of marble, and he has this image of what he wants to do. He wants to create a statue of David. Mm-hmm. So the only way he can do that is to remove everything that isn't David from that marble, to reveal it. So how do I remove everything from me that isn't me, which is my beliefs, my thoughts, my everything? How do I stand naked in front of divine love? How do I stand naked in front of myself so that the naked truth is the field in which we stand, and the naked truth is love. Love has no barriers. So I know it sounds very up in the sky, but for me, this is what I'm being asked to, and what we're being asked to grow each day, a life that is based on love and through acts of kindness. And that's why I really appreciate this whole movement of mindfulness and the Buddhist metta of loving kindness, because it is acts of loving kindness that create the field of resonance that allow the seeds of love to flower. If I walk around waving a seed and say, I am love, because it's inside the seed, it's unmanifest, it's not revealed. The whole thing of living in time and space and being incarnated as a soul on earth is to show, through the seasons of growth on the outside, what lives on the inside. So it's about revelation. Nature is an act of seasonal revelation. And our lives are lives of seasonal revelation. And what we're revealing is the power of love in all its beauty, in all its forms.
I like your revelations. This is a much better version of Book of Revelations than what's being cast out there at the moment. It's a little bit more positive.
Well, but remember, before the new is born, before the Renaissance, one has the death of old forms. And I wrote a blog a few weeks ago saying that we are soul gardeners. Our task is to plant the seeds of this new civilization, a more just and joyful world. We have to plant these seeds. However, we're doing it in adverse conditions. And so as a gardener, I may have to wear a hard hat because there are pieces of masonry falling down as the old structures fall upon me. And so I have to protect myself. So what I'm telling myself is what I need is a hard hat, a soft heart, and a good pair of wellies. You know.
I love that. Yeah, it's very, very true. Something that came up for me when you were talking as well was, me in my life, I've chucked away the things that no longer served me. And, I gave up drugs, I gave up alcohol, I gave up unhealthy relationships to sex, I gave up addictions to drama, attention to work, to all of these things. I was literally stripping back as whatever I found didn't serve me, it went, and pulling away. And it was such a hard, revealing time because I was often laid there, like, oh my God, what am I doing? But it was the most profound journey I could have taken in order to get me here today. And I'm not saying I'm the ultimate, statue of perfection, but I am perfect up to the point where I know what I need to get rid of, and I will remove it in that sense.
So we're all spiritual strippers, really, aren't we? Because we're taking off all the things that hide who we really are until we stand naked in front of each other in love.
Oh my God, I'm a spiritual stripper. I'm going to tell my dad that. See how that goes down. Dad, I'm a spiritual stripper. He's just going to roll his eyes, bless him. There was something else that you mentioned as well, and something I really realized when I was living in Ibiza. And I love the island, and I continue to go back there, and I will end up probably back there for a large part of the year. But whilst living on that island, and there's a very eclectic mix of some beautiful characters, some beautiful people, there's an unfolding there, there's an energy there, it's beautiful. And I realized the difference between flowing with life and floating in life. And this is something I came up with on my own. So if you've, forgive me if it's wrong, but for me, it makes a lot of sense. When we are floating in life, we're in this kind of spiritual avoidance. So we might bump into having these magical, amazing experiences, but we don't really do anything with them. We don't really make anything of them. We avoid them. We're still stuck in our traumas and our resistances. We're having the mystical experience, but we're not grounded. And when we are flowing in life, which is a very similar flow, and you might meet the same synchronicities, there's an energy that works with you, and there's no need for avoidance. You are flowing, and it's moving. It's a moving force through you. You're not just being carried off, and you can do more with that moving force. You can surrender with that, and you can ground with that flow, and you can harness it and bring it in. And so for me, on this journey has been a realization: am I flowing or am I floating? Is this right? Or, is there synchronicities, or am I just trying to make something of this, thinking it's a magical experience? What am I getting from this? And it's only when you take action on the synchronicities, not just notice them, that they actually become your trust and your faith in the path, because you actually took it and you were like, yes, grounding it, and then you trust in it because you've brought it into life. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And I have so much to respond to. Let me just do it. First of all, there's awareness. In psychosynthesis, which is the psychology that was conceived by Dr. Roberto Assagioli, the Italian, that is really a psychology that takes in the whole being and is geared to helping us move from one stage of wholeness to another. Talks about awareness and will as the two components. You can be aware of something, but being aware of it doesn't move anything. It's like you say, it's floating. But when you apply will, it moves. So if you imagine awareness as a circle, and will, when it's applied to a circle and lifts it, becomes a spiral. And a spiral is the natural movement of how life evolves. Now, the other thing about flow that I love is, I go back to that we're not in a transactional relationship with life. So there's a whole idea of giving and receiving. Well, I'll only give if I've got. I believe that there comes a point in our life where giving and receiving are not based on, as I say, a transactional value. I give because it's the natural urge of my soul to give. And when I give, I receive. And then there comes a point where giving and receiving are no longer two separate activities. They merge and become flow. So flow is giving and receiving simultaneously, and it then puts us in touch with the larger flow, which is what we call the great circulation of blessing. So by going into flow, we participate in the great circulatory system of the cosmos, where love is the lifeblood. So that which is being circulated through the flow is love. So I totally understand what you're saying. So flow for me is when giving and receiving are no longer separate, but a part of one impulse. That is the impulse to love, the impulse to move from partiality to wholeness. And that's what you invoked or provoked in me.
I love your words. When you talk, I'm literally like, I just get like lost in the way that you speak. And obviously the blogs and things you do as well are very, very deep. And it's just the way that you use your words for me is it's quite inspiring. For Lou as well, me, Lou and Brian, we're your little fans here at I Am Sound. We're just obsessed with your
stuff. The thing you go back to in the beginning was the word. So the importance of words, because words contain a formula. They're not just descriptive.
No, they're vibration.
If you look at the Old English for magic, it's grammary. So the art of spelling is, how do we put together these tonal components in the right order to create a formula, and that formula contains the promise and the destiny, and we launch it out, we spell something, and then it appears. So everything we think, can say, and do each day is a spell, but thank God most people don't have the power that it comes true. But with focused intent, you can create great goodness and great harm. And that's where we're at the moment. We're understanding the power of focused intent. And then we go back to Meditation Mount. Our job is through focused collective intent, to start building the architecture, the spiritual architecture of the future, not as something we're going to impose, because it's not a design, a form, it's a set of qualities that then give birth to forms. These three qualities or principles of essential divinity, goodness, which is goodwill, and unanimity. So it goes back to the importance of placing the mind inside the heart. So when the heart is this laser, is this focus, is this lens that of bringing the energy into earth, it's done as an act of love. And because I remember as a child, as a little boy with a magnifying glass, burning holes in leaves and sometimes ants, you know.
Mhm.
Guess what? That's what happens at an inner level.
Mm.
We can burn holes in things if that is our intent, or we can spread this wave of goodness and be part of this incredible flow and circulation of love by participating wholeheartedly in life. And that's what it means to say yes, to participate wholeheartedly in life.
Wow, I don't think there's anything I can add to that. I think we are safe enough to leave it there. And just, it's been such an incredible journey getting to kind of look at your work and go down your rabbit holes online, and obviously having these conversations with you. I feel very gifted. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, and thank you for the work you're doing with I Am Sound Academy, because it's all about resonance. It's
Mm.
it's all about harmonics.
Yeah,
It's all about sounding and resounding who we are,
indeed.
and it is a concerted effort. We're
Mm.
in concert together with each other
Right.
to build this better world. So
I think
it
we
is
might
a
have to have that as a
concerted effort.
tagline: concerted effort. But it's, my dream for I Am Sound is to allow everyone to realize their true relationship to sound, because when they do, I know there's very little work that we will have to do collectively. It'll be an inner journey, and that's where the magic happens, on the fifth direction, going inwards.
Well, we're invited to be the choristers of Gaia, singing in the song lines of a new earth. That's basically it, why we're here, and we're
Yeah,
the beauty. So anyway,
thank
I'm
you.
deeply grateful for this opportunity to get to know you more and the work of your, I nearly said organization, but it's not an organization. It's an organism in the body of Gaia.
Yeah. Oh, I like that we're an organism. I need to write this stuff down, Michael. I'm going to have to go back through and be like, right, we need that one and that one and that one. Yeah, it's nuts. But, there's so much more that we want to do with you. There's lots of conversations we want to have. This is kind of the first of many. You have kindly agreed to being one of our wise elders, somebody that
Yeah.
we can put up on our lovely glittering pedestals in the most positive way, and really understand what it is you've gone through and why you've come to these understandings, so we can follow in that direction. It's magnificent to know what you're doing at the Meditation Mount, and to be able to really support anything that you are doing. And I know when people watch this through our membership, there's going to be people reaching out, and there's going to be people wanting to do more, because you are such an inspiration, and you're just one of many amazing people, but you really are to us somebody quite dear. So thank you.
Thank you. And meditationmount.org is our website, and there are a number of talks that I've given. There's recordings of full moon meditations and talks and other things if people want access to resources. So anyway,
Brilliant.
wonderful.
Thank you very much. No worries. Well, if you stay there,
I can carry on with my day. It's my normal breakfast time now.
I know, I can't believe it's
like a
early
hobbit.
day.
I could have a second breakfast if I'm going to be a hobbit. So
You can have more biscuits, yeah?
I do. I have a
Custard creams.
slash of digestives and rich tea.
I had 2 bourbon biscuits yesterday, and I was like, I felt so like a child. It was great. Not good for my cleanse, but I was like, no, this is good for the soul. So for everybody else that is at home watching this, thank you so much. If you have really enjoyed this, then please do reach out to Michael. He will be happy to hear from you. Any questions, you can always drop us a line at I Am Sound Academy. If you or anyone else hasn't yet gone on to the membership, but you're still seeing this, do join us. You can go to www.iamsoundacademy.com and check it out. And we will see you on the next one. But for now, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.